Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads where God asks you to let go of something dear to you? Whether it's a cherished relationship, a hard-earned position, or a lifelong dream, how do you respond to such requests? As we explore this topic, remember to subscribe to our channel for more insightful content. In the face of challenging decisions or unexpected twists in life, how do you react? Do you question God's intentions? Or do you seek to understand why He leads you down a particular path? Our human nature often leans towards logic and reasoning, especially when faced with difficult choices posed by God. We want to unravel every mystery and understand every detail. However, it's essential to take a moment and recognize that God is beyond our comprehension. He is unquestionable and sovereign, and His ways are far greater than ours. Pause for a moment and resist the urge to question. Remember, God's desire isn't for you to figure everything out. It's for you to believe and trust Him. Unbelief and pride often drive our need to analyze God's commands. It's like trying to dissect the ways of an ageless God with our limited understanding. The Bible tells us that God's ways are not man's ways, and attempting to comprehend His actions with a finite mind only leads to spiritual unrest. Let's reflect on the story of Abraham in Genesis 22. God instructs Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac, as a burnt offering. Imagine the weight of such a command. Abraham, however, demonstrates remarkable faith. He doesn't question God's directive, he simply obeys. In our attempts to fathom God's reasoning, we may hinder His promises for our lives. Abraham's trust, devoid of questioning, is a powerful example of the kind of faith that pleases God. Abraham's unwavering faith is highlighted when Isaac, his son, asks about the sacrifice. Abraham responds, "God Himself will provide the lamb." This statement reveals Abraham's profound understanding of God's nature. He trusts that God can even raise Isaac from the dead. Abraham's obedience without questioning leads to God's commendation and blessings. It's crucial to understand that God isn't interested in you figuring out His plans. He wants you to believe in Him. When God asks you to give something up, it's not about the item but about creating space in your heart for more of Him. Don't be caught in the trap of questioning why God asks for certain sacrifices. Instead, believe that He has something greater in store for you. As we delve deeper into this journey of faith, if you love this channel, please consider subscribing to Christian Motiversity for more engaging content that uplifts and inspires. Your subscription supports our mission to spread the message of faith and trust in God. Remember, God's timing is not bound by human impatience. In a world accustomed to instant results, waiting on God's perfect timing can be challenging. But God uses waiting periods to stretch our faith, bring about growth, and prepare us for His blessings. Understand that God's delays are not denials. They are moments of refinement. In the process of waiting, we may not comprehend God's timeline, but we must trust that He makes everything beautiful in His time. Just as a seed planted in the ground undergoes unseen processes before germination, our blessings too have a divine timetable. Trusting God during the waiting period is an act of humility, acknowledging that He is in control. Consider Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Trusting God involves surrendering our will and understanding to His divine plan. It's a journey of faith where we choose to wait patiently, knowing that His timing is always perfect. Consider the story of Noah. In Genesis 6, God instructs Noah to build an ark, explaining that He will send a flood to cleanse the earth. Can you imagine the questions Noah might have had? The world had not experienced rain, and yet he faithfully followed God's command, trusting that divine wisdom surpassed human comprehension. Noah's obedience saved his family and preserved life on earth. Moving forward in history, we encounter the faith-filled journey of Moses. When God tasked Moses with leading the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses faced immense challenges and uncertainties. Yet he trusted God's guidance, even when the path seemed arduous. Through faith, Moses witnessed the miracles of the Red Sea's parting and the provision of manna in the wilderness. His unwavering trust in God's plan paved the way for the deliverance of an entire nation. Fast forward to the New Testament, where we find the disciples facing turbulent storms on the Sea of Galilee. In Matthew 8, we read about Jesus walking on water. Peter, filled with both faith and doubt, attempts to join Jesus on the water. As Peter shifts his focus from Jesus to the storm, he begins to sink. Jesus extends his hand, saying, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" Peter's experience teaches us that when we fix our gaze on the uncertainties around us, doubt creeps in. Yet, when we keep our eyes on Jesus, our faith remains steadfast. Consider the woman with the issue of blood in Mark 5. 12 years of suffering led her to believe that if she could touch the hem of Jesus' garment, she would be healed. Despite societal norms and physical challenges, her unwavering faith propelled her forward. Jesus commends her, saying, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." This woman's story illustrates that trusting God's plan often requires courage to defy conventional wisdom. These biblical narratives showcase a common thread faith that defies human understanding. Whether facing floods, leading nations, navigating storms, or seeking healing, the key ingredient is unwavering trust in God. As we reflect on these stories, let them serve as a foundation for our own journeys of faith. In our modern lives, we often encounter situations where understanding seems elusive. Job loss, health challenges, relationship complexities, these are the storms of our time. It's in these moments that we must choose faith over understanding, acknowledging that God's ways are higher than ours. Consider the words of Isaiah 55:8-9. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." Embracing these verses invites us to release the burden of trying to figure everything out. It's an invitation to trust in a God whose wisdom surpasses our comprehension. As we navigate the complexities of life, we encounter seasons of waiting. Waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for healing, waiting for a promise to be fulfilled. This waiting period is not passive. It's a time of active trust. It's a season where our faith is refined and our character is molded. Just as a seed grows beneath the surface before sprouting, our waiting is not in vain. Consider the story of David. Anointed as king as a young shepherd, David faced years of waiting and trials before assuming the throne. Despite being pursued by Saul and enduring hardships, David trusted in God's timing. His faithfulness during the waiting season prepared him for the fulfillment of God's promise. David's life exemplifies that waiting on God isn't wasted time. It's a crucial part of our spiritual journey. Now, let's address the common struggle of impatience during waiting periods. We live in an era of instant gratification where waiting feels like an inconvenience. However, it's essential to recognize that God's delays are purposeful. His timing aligns with His perfect plan for our lives. Patience is not merely the ability to wait, but also the ability to trust while waiting. Proverbs 13:12 states, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life." While waiting may stir emotions of impatience, disappointment, or doubt, we must remember that God's promises will not be delayed indefinitely. They will come to fruition at the appointed time, bringing life and fulfillment. In the realm of understanding God's timing, we encounter the story of Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a son, and despite their advanced age, Isaac was born. Yet, the fulfillment of God's promise required a journey of trust. Sarah's laughter, when told she would conceive, reflected human skepticism. But God's timing prevailed, and Isaac was born. If you're gaining insights and inspiration from these timeless stories, consider subscribing to Christian Motiversity. By subscribing, you become part of a community that explores faith, trust, and the abundant life God offers. Your subscription supports the mission of spreading uplifting messages grounded in biblical truths. Now, let's shift our focus to understanding God's character in the waiting season. God is not oblivious to our struggles or unmoved by our impatience. Instead, He uses waiting to deepen our intimacy with Him, strengthen our faith, and align our hearts with His. Psalm 27:14 encourages us with these words, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." Waiting is an active stance, an opportunity to be strong and take heart. It's not a passive resignation, but a conscious decision to trust that God is working behind the scenes. In the New Testament, we find the story of Simeon and Anna, two individuals who waited patiently for the Messiah. Their faithfulness in the waiting season allowed them to witness the arrival of Jesus. Simeon's words in Luke 2:29-30 resonate with the essence of waiting. "Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace. For my eyes have seen your salvation." These examples underscore the beauty of waiting when aligned with God's promises. It's not about idly passing time, but actively trusting, believing, and preparing for the fulfillment of God's plan. Waiting becomes a testimony of our faith, a declaration that we believe in a God who is faithful to His promises. As we navigate the waiting seasons, let's address the temptation to take matters into our own hands. Abraham and Sarah faced this challenge when waiting for the promised son. In a moment of impatience, they sought to fulfill God's promise through Hagar, Sarah's maidservant. The result was the birth of Ishmael, creating complications that echoed through generations. This story serves as a cautionary tale against manipulating circumstances when waiting on God. Impatience can lead to unintended consequences, hindering the fullness of God's plan. It's a reminder that our efforts to expedite God's promises often result in shortcuts that deviate from His perfect path. Now, let's bring the focus back to personal application. How do we practically embrace faith over understanding in our daily lives? It begins with a conscious decision to surrender our need for control and understanding. Proverbs 3:5-6 provides a blueprint. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." This passage outlines 3 essential steps: trust, surrender, and submission. Trust involves placing our confidence in God's character and promises. Surrender requires letting go of our need to understand every detail. Submission is an ongoing commitment to align our lives with God's will. Consider the analogy of a GPS navigation system. When we embark on a journey, we input the destination into the GPS. The GPS in turn guides us, providing step-by-step directions. We don't need to comprehend the intricacies of every turn or road. We trust the system to lead us to our destination. Consider the life of Joseph in the Old Testament. Joseph's journey involved numerous twists and turns, including betrayal by his brothers, slavery, and imprisonment. Yet, through it all, he held onto his faith. While confined, Joseph interpreted dreams, showcasing his unwavering trust in God's ability to reveal the future. Eventually, he ascended to a position of influence in Egypt, fulfilling the dreams God had given him. Joseph's story underscores the transformative power of waiting with faith. The waiting room isn't a passive place. It's a training ground for the fulfillment of God's purpose. As we navigate our own waiting seasons, let's adopt an attitude of active anticipation, believing that God is working in the background, orchestrating events for our good. In the waiting seasons, having a supportive community becomes crucial. Surrounding ourselves with fellow believers provides strength, encouragement, and shared experiences. When doubts arise or impatience sets in, a community of faith can uplift us and remind us of God's faithfulness. It's in the shared journey that we find strength to persevere. Consider the story of Ruth and Naomi. Ruth's commitment to Naomi, her mother-in-law, exemplifies the power of loyalty and support in challenging times. Ruth's declaration, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, "My God," highlights the strength found in a supportive relationship. Ruth's faithfulness resulted in unexpected blessings, including her marriage to Boaz and becoming part of the lineage of Jesus. Now, let's explore the concept of divine timing. God's timing is precise, aligning with His perfect plan for our lives. While we may desire immediate answers and quick resolutions, God orchestrates events in His appointed time. Ecclesiastes 3:11 beautifully captures this truth. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. Understanding that God's timing transcends our comprehension invites us to release the need for instant gratification. Patience becomes an essential virtue in the journey of faith over understanding. Waiting is not an indication of God's forgetfulness or neglect. Rather, it's an affirmation of His sovereignty. Consider the story of Lazarus in John 11. When Jesus received news of Lazarus' illness, He intentionally delayed his arrival. By the time Jesus reached Bethany, Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. Martha, Lazarus' sister, expressed her grief, saying, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." However, Jesus, in His divine wisdom, performed a miraculous resurrection, revealing the glory of God. This narrative challenges our conventional understanding of time and urgency. Jesus' deliberate delay served a higher purpose to manifest God's glory. In our waiting seasons, let's embrace the truth that God's delays are not denials. His timing ensures that His glory is revealed in ways that surpass our expectations. In conclusion, the journey of faith over understanding is marked by trust, patience, and active waiting. The Bible presents a tapestry of stories, illustrating individuals who chose faith despite uncertainties. From Noah's Ark to Abraham's promised son, Moses leading a nation to David's wait for the throne. Each narrative invites us to trust in a God whose ways surpass our understanding. As we apply these lessons to our lives, let's remember that waiting is not wasted time. It's a season of preparation. God's timing is impeccable, and His promises will come to fruition. Instead of succumbing to impatience, let's actively wait, trusting that God is working behind the scenes. Thank you for joining us on this extended exploration of faith and trust. If you found value in this discussion, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Christian Motiversity for more in-depth content on navigating life's journey with faith. Your subscription strengthens our community, and together, we can inspire each other to embrace faith over understanding. Until our next video, may your faith be unwavering, your trust in God unshakable, and your journey one guided by the wisdom of the Almighty. God bless you.